Hey y'all, welcome to the Moving with Millennials podcast with your favorite millennial realtors.
We are 4 top producing agents in the DFW area, and we are ready to share the good, bad, and the real life of real estate.
Whether you're thinking about getting into real estate, already an agent, or just curious about what your agent really does, join us.
Tune in every Wednesday to see what it's really like to be on this side of the transaction.
Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Moving with Millennials. Today we are talking all things branding. My name is Maggie, Brandie, Mariana, and Jake.
All right, yeah, so we're going to talk about branding. We get a lot of questions about branding, so we thought we wanted to make a whole podcast around it, share kind of like why it's important to brand, but also like what we do for our branding as well. So why don't we start with the first question, just to kind of kick it off, like why is it important to brand yourself? Jake, do you kind of want to explain like why is that important?
One, to differentiate yourself from everyone else. I think worldwide, or even just in like the US, there's more real estate agents than there are listings for sale.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a lot of us. So how can someone tell that I'm different? How can they tell what I stand for, what I believe in, and all those things? So I think it's just really important to set yourself apart.
Yeah.
Kind of also, before we get too far in, I also wanted to talk about we have 4 very different brands too.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that's one of the cool things about doing this branding kind of session is that one, we have a shared brand, obviously Moving with Millennials. I think if you go to that Instagram or those accounts, it's consistent,
Yeah.
But then our individual brands are so different. So
Yeah,
we all believe in branding, but we all obviously approach it very differently.
Yeah, and
For
that's
sure.
and that's what branding is to, like you said, be different from others. So
Definitely. And you want someone to go to your page or see some sort of marketing piece and be like, I want to work with this person.
yeah.
I think that's really...
Or they see something and like we'll get into more details on like colors, but they see a color and they think of you.
Right, yes.
So that's, I think the biggest thing is like market share. I always think about that. Like whenever they get ready to buy or sell a house, like how do I make them think about me?
Mind share.
Right.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
What did I say? Market share.
Mind share leads
Yeah.
to market share.
One of those.
I
Yeah.
didn't
So
even notice.
yeah,
Yeah.
mind share. Okay,
Anyway.
so Maggie, do you want to talk about your brand a little bit?
I
We're
thought you were
gonna-
good.
Do you want me to start? I can start. So my brand, I brand myself as Modern Nest Real Estate Group, which first of all, coming up with the name was like, took forever. That's why even like Moving with Millennials, we're just now figuring out the name. It took us probably 2 months just to think
More
of.
than that.
So coming up with the name is, really the first step because that's what's going to create the logo, then you create the color scheme when you do the logo. So coming up with the name is really the hardest. If you decide to brand yourself as a team like I did, even though I wasn't a team when I started, it was just me and my assistant, and I am still just me and my assistant, I still wanted to build something bigger than myself. So that's why I wasn't, and I'm not saying this is the wrong way to do it, but that's why I'm not the Mariana Pearson team. I'm the Modernist Real Estate Group. And that's just because I wanted to build something, but teams do it all the time where they brand their name, and I feel like that still works. I just didn't, it didn't fit what I was looking for. So Modernist Real Estate Group, we got a very airy look. The Tiffany blue is kind of our signature color. We also, you can go on and see like the little circle is part of our brand because the nest, like we always try to, like even when it comes to like our closing gifts, I have Bless This Nest doormat. So we really play off the nest theme. So that's my brand. What about you, Jake?
So I approach things a little bit differently, of course. I think that's the fun part of
Yep.
it. So my brand, I first thought of like who I wanted to work with. And then, because I think of it kind of in a marketing concept, like who's my target audience, who do I want to work with, who do I want to buy, sell, real estate through, my ideal client, basically. I call it like my avatar. And that comes back from like my design background. When we were designing model homes, the designers would have to come up with like an ideal family for that model home. And so we would kind of design the house around that family then for models. So that way the salesperson knew like who their target demographic was. So that's how I approach my brand. My brand definitely has, I think, should and does have the most masculine feel of ours. My colors are navy blue and gray. And that really just comes from me. One, navy is a really strong color. Has like a lot of like really positive meanings behind it historically. And I'm almost always in blue. So it was something that was easy for me to kind of work with that. So even when I post like personal pictures, I know that's also a little bit different. You guys have separate accounts for real estate and for personal. I do one combined, but everything is framed in navy and blue. And that just goes back to just, again, consistent. all my brands and font. I mean, all my fonts are consistent for my brand. So it's just kind of that strong. It's a little more sleek and clean, I think. But with a strong color.
Yeah, and it's very recognizable too. So,
for sure. So I separated my my accounts and did a business account, and then in the beginning I was just posting random things, like trying to figure out my brand, and then COVID hit, and so I had all this time to like really think. And I was, thinking to myself, like, what do I like? What is my style? And it was so easy. I mean, at the beginning, I wasn't thinking like that. I was just thinking like, oh, post.
Get on your feet.
Yeah. And so it was easy. I mean, it's very light. I have a light blue color, light and airy. I just try and like keep it my style to where you,
when you see it, it makes you happy.
Definitely.
That's me.
Also, I think yours, like one of the words I would use to describe it is like cozy.
Definitely.
Or
and
homey. I mean, it's like very, there's just like a very cozy feel to it.
For sure. And it matches like my house. If you see like my office, it matches my brand throughout my page and just my website, everything. So I'd say it's just all about like your personality and what you brand yourself as, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Mine is, I get stuck sometimes. To be honest, I come from like photography and film, and our Instagrams had to be so perfectly lined and perfect. Like it couldn't be too bold because if that didn't match your pictures that you're providing. So sometimes I find myself getting stuck in that photographer mindset still. So I am not as bold. I obviously I feel like right now it's like black or white and like the light brown tones, like the wooden tones. But I've been trying to throw more hot pink in because that's just like more me.
You should, yeah.
It's so scary though because like all of my photography stuff, I'm like no brights, no nothing, and so like when I throw hot pink up, I'm like ah.
But you could like add that as a highlight color. Like,
I know it's just so scary, but like that's something that's so me and like so fun. I think that's something that I've just been focusing so much on is like what is Brandie, right? Like and that's like our brand is like. Brandie.
My brand is Brandie.
So, I've just been like chasing that more and like being more authentic, which I think we're going to touch on more. And because the people want to work with you, right? So like being your true self on social media and in your brand. So when they meet you, they're like, oh, I already know you, right? Like that's the goal. Is like when they shake your hand in person, they're like, well, I've already followed you. I've already known that I have this connection with you for a while. So.
For sure.
That's how we're going. So
definitely.
I'm trying to add more hot pinks in, but I've been so scared.
You
it's
should,
not perfect.
because you can
it's
still
like that bright white. I love that bright white. I mean, obviously I painted our whole house white before we even moved in, but I just get so scared of color.
Or you could just start like your branding pictures with like hot pink and then incorporate like highlight colors. That's big for me is like adding like that blue into all of my posts.
Right.
I think like if you go back and look at one, we're talking about branding, but I feel like we've also started to like kind of like get deep on kind of then like what we're really talking about is Instagram.
Yes,
because that is a
one of the ways to
large
brand.
part of your brand. Obviously, it's the visual portion of it, but I mean, I think in general, like I also like there's times like you do like with your gifts, like same thing, I try to like incorporate navy in like a lot of my gifts to clients or like when I do showings and a lot of times I'm in navy, just those subtle things you can do to kind of reinforce that brand. So I think there's definitely plenty of ways we can probably work on hot pink for you without having to be like visual on your Instagram and it scare you at first.
For sure.
We'll get there eventually.
That's like how does my favorite color scare me? But it does. Like,
well, and I think for you are your brand, and I mean I say that in a way because it's like you're focusing on I don't have color, I don't have anything. Well, that's okay because you have like these images that you post. Like I love the ones where you're like dancing. Like that's you.
They're so cute.
That's your brand, and so really your brand is you, or like that's who how you are choosing to brand yourself. Even though my brand is also me, I'm still trying to step out of where it's not just about me, it's about modernness. So I always try to like any images, things like that, like it maybe have the logo instead of me. So there's different ways you can always go around branding.
Definitely. And lifestyle pictures are huge. And I think you just mentioned like wearing a color. I always try and incorporate like chambray or like a blue.
Or leopard.
Or leopard. I know that's part of
Well, and that's also an important thing is like you're part of that brand too. Like it's not just about the blue, like who you are. Like you love leopard print.
Yes.
I love leopard print as well, but they may see leopard print and think you over me because you always are in it and wearing it. For me, I'm like a huge Friends lover, so if I try to post like Friends TV show. I always try to post things that maybe relate to Friends TV, because I can't tell you how many times people see a Friends thing and tag me in it or send it to me.
Or buy you a t-shirt at Buc-ee's.
Or buy me a t-shirt at Buc-ee's. Yes.
Like I did.
Yes, thanks, Jake.
Yeah.
It's still one of my faves. So it's like that's part of my brand too, even though it has nothing to do with real estate, because the point again is mind share of people trying to think of you. So
Definitely.
yeah.
I think that comes with the authentic, right? It's like we're more than real estate. So like who are we with
As a
our
person.
brand?
Right.
And then that will bring
Right.
them
So-
to us for real estate.
Yeah, let's share our best tip on how to come up with the brand. Jake, you kind of mentioned like you started off with your niche
Right.
to figure out brand. So
Yeah.
how did what was that process like?
So I mean, the background's like a very structured process, or how I'm used to it. So that's kind of how I approached it too. And I won't like go into like the weeds of like my ideal client or anything like that. So I just don't think that's necessary. But I did sit down, put pen to paper or iPad pencil to iPad, and kind of thought about, okay, so the groups or types of people that I want to work with for various reasons. And okay, great. What are these people interested in? Awesome. What am I interested in that aligns with that? Okay, great. Those become my highlights. Those are the things I need to focus in on. And so then once I kind of have that, for me, that goes into then social media. What I post has to align in those categories. And then that's when I went into, okay, well, let's decide on a color. Then let's look at font. Let's do logo. So I actually did my logo. I did not start out with a perfectly curated brand. Well, one, I don't have that right now, but I did not start out with a brand right away in real estate. So I was practicing for a while. It was kind of once COVID happened and we had the time to like actually breathe for half a minute and take that. And I sat down, came up with all the ideas. That's when I got a logo. And so like my logo, it's the J and the L for Jake Langford, but they wrap and create like a really sleek, pretty house. And so that's my logo. And then Jake Langford Real Estate Group. And I can totally understand what you're saying about like Modern Nest being not your name. For me, I just don't like really, I have a vision of where I want to go with like a team or a group eventually in the future. So this works for me right now. And so like if I need to rebrand in the future, I'm totally not opposed to that.
Well, and I'm not saying that's wrong, because think about it, like Evie Holiday, like that's a name and it's a huge brand now. So Jake Langford could be a brand eventually. And so, or Jake Langford Group, whatever. I just felt like, I don't know, Mariana Pearson to me just is a mouthful. So I was like, I'm just going to step out of that and think of something else. So, and I took a little bit different approach. My biggest thing, like I said, was figure out the name first, since I wasn't using Jake or Mariana Pearson.
You can use it. Write that on all of your contracts, please.
I'll just go ahead and put your brand on everything that I do. So for me, I was trying to think of the name, and when I was thinking of the name, what I did, I remember writing down 10 words that I wanted, kind of like you did the niche, or who you want to focus on. I did 10 words that I want my brand to represent. I remember I kept modern was one, like clean, fresh, like and even if they weren't going to be part of the name, it's how do I want the brand to be?
Absolutely.
So modern was one that kept sticking out to me, and I was just like, modern is modern, like that's timeless, right? Because modern day, like it is. So I wanted I wanted a modern feel, and I'm like, why don't I just use the word modern? And then I kept thinking of other words for house, right? Because instead of like modern house or something, actually I looked into some others. Like I think I looked into like modern city, and I looked into mod city. Well, there is a mod city. So of course you also have to remember, if you're going to brand outside of your name and choose another name, research what other people are doing already if it's not taken. I'm 95% sure there is a Modern Nest. It's a designer, interior designer group, but it's in like New York or something. So there is technically another Modern Nest something, but it's not real estate and it's not here. So,
and there's a way you can check that. You can check and see like what's taken, or like businesses in Texas or whatever state.
DBAs, Well, and I just Googled and just went to look to see what else was out there, and it saw one other option that sounded like it, which was the Modern Nest. But I was like, you know what? It's like all the way in New York. Like it's not the same. So, but that's what I started with, and then it just fell into the colors and stuff.
Right.
So
I was going to say one thing kind of in between, and it just kind of dawned on me while we're talking about this. One, we each work for a brokerage that allows us to individually brand ourselves. Not every brokerage is that way, but also like I know that we've got lenders and title reps, and I think a couple of interior designers that already follow us on our Instagram and likely listen. If you're listening to this and you're thinking like, oh, they're just I can skip this one because it's about real estate branding. It's not about real estate branding. I mean, you could be an insurance agent at State Farm and still brand yourself separately and how you market your individual self.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Photographers.
photographers, interior designers, branding is something that you've got to come up with your brand no matter what you're doing professionally.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's
Right.
definitely something that this is more than real estate. So I think that's really important to note as well
Good
for
for
our listeners.
all business owners. Yeah.
Definitely.
Maggie,
Definitely.
what was the process like for you coming up? Because you're Maggie Dieter
Real estate group. Yes.
Okay.
So I mean, I feel like I kind of covered this previously, but I mean, COVID hit and I didn't have a brand. Like it literally was just all over the place. Like if you look back to my Instagram it's a hot mess.
Mine was too.
So
I can see that line in all of our Instagrams where we then are
so
like,
bad.
and then it changes. Mine's like a transition to other couple blues, and then I found the right navy, and then it's consistent.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And I'm just going to say, I think Maggie touched on this a minute ago. It's like, don't focus way too much on the brand. Like, you do just need to start posting, especially as a brand new agent.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be like, well, I can't sell real estate until I come up with a brand. Like, you
Definitely
need to figure out the brand along the way. It takes time.
It does take time. And I just I wrote down things like homey or, clean, light and airy. And that's my style. That's my entire house. And that's really just how I formed it. Like I got inspo like from, interior designers of just like home design because I post a lot of like interior like kitchens and things. And then I started to think like, okay, I need to incorporate this into my brand, which is light and airy and blue and just cozy, like country.
Yeah.
Chic,
totally you. Yeah.
Just very farmhouse. I'm not really farmhouse. What would you say? Like middle, like
cottage.
Yeah. But modern too.
Yeah.
So,
like modern farmhouse, really.
Yeah.
But it just kind of like fell together.
Yeah, and I think once you figure out kind of what that brand is, it just like all starts to fall, like you said, all starts to fall into place to where it gets easier to create the things and
Right, and I get so many people that I'm on Zoom calls and they're like, "Oh my god, your office looks exactly like your page," or like they make that connection because it's my brand. So
yeah, absolutely.
But
Brandie, what about you in branding?
I would just do the same thing. I would just stay like what do I love, right? And how do I want to represent myself and carry myself? And I had this like pivotal change a few years ago where I just walked a straight line and I just like kept my head down and then I was like, I just need to be me, like, and the perfect, right? Like getting rid of perfect. And like I love like dance parties and like with the kids I'll turn the radio on or we'll just like dance around the house and have fun. So I wanted to have my feed and my brand represent like this fun, bright, clean, because also very like clean brand. So that's just kind of revolves around who I am.
Yeah, and it shows on your page.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say if you're still stuck on that, like you're like, well, what do I want to like have people, know or show people about me? I would say ask your friends, ask your people who already know you and say, hey, when you think of something, what makes you think of me? Or when you see me, what do you think of? Because I think there's like one realtor who like he's got a mustache, so like he brands his mustache, or we have
several of them.
There's several that do that, and then there's also like a bald guy, like he brands himself as a bald guy, and so there's like, who are you, as a person? That could be your brand. And so if you're stuck on that and you don't know what people think about you, I mean, it may be a good or bad thing to ask that, but you should.
A good thing to do too is go on to Pinterest and like make a board of like everything you love, and then you can see the Pinterest board and like how it flows together, and then that's how you can kind of change to Instagram or your website, kind of take that.
Definitely when you're thinking colors and
and so that's a lot of the visual branding. I think one of the other things, so I work with new agents in like a branding, marketing, social media class, and one of the things I tell them to do is to come up with your value proposition as well, or your like what differentiates you. And so I always tell them real estate, especially, so this is real estate specific, a lot of times it's a second career for a lot of people. And so I always say pull from something that was a previous strength in your original career. And so like that's like one of the games we play when I teach that class is they say what they did, and I try to as quickly as possible rattle off like 3 words that could represent or turn into. So for like teachers, it's like it's like you're educational, you're patient, and you understand processes. So it's like, so it's like that goes into creating your brand as well. Not just like what do people see when they look at my social media or when they look at me, but what comes across, like how do I communicate with people. So I think that's part of your brand too, is how you carry yourself and how you present yourself.
I love that.
I think that's a really important part of it.
I love that idea about like your previous career. Like I don't have a previous career, so it's hard to do that.
College student.
I was right out of college. Yeah. Partying. No.
I was a sorority. Fun, energetic, and let's see. There's probably a third one we could think
Chi
of.
Omega.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
But I love that. Like you just brought up teachers. Like I think of teachers, and I know Maggie, you were a teacher, but it's like, and you do, that is part of your brand because you just did like a drawing for teachers, and that's part of your, like Jake was saying, who do you want to work with? Maggie loves to work with teachers because that's who, you know, she used to be a teacher. Definitely. So that's part of your brand too. It's not just about, And
almost all my clients that they all know that I have some sort of interior design background. So it's like they all know that is going to show up or come up as possibly a tool in my tool belt at one point, you know. So it's like, I think that's important too, is to draw on not just your visual brand, but know that brand has to carry through and be consistent.
Absolutely. So let's talk about like how you can brand yourself, because it's not just about, you know, a name, but you have your image, for example, like we've talked about, your smiling face, but you yourself, like we keep using the words like clean and airy and all that. That's what represents like our images, or those of us that have said that. But you want to think about like, what's your image, you know, is it, I don't know.
What do people think of when they...
What makes you excited? Image wise. And then your name. So do you want to use your name as the brand? Do you want to, you know, branch out like I did Modern Nest? So coming up with that name, your logo, that's probably your next thing. You should definitely have a logo. I think you should have alternative logos too. Yes. So like, I know we all kind of have, like I have a longer logo or a bigger one, and then we have like a small like different.
Icon only, no words or anything like that.
Yeah, so it's a little more, and I don't even have an icon logo. I would say like my circle is kind of,
could be.
But because we even like our images, like if you see my headshots, we try to like put that circle around the headshot. So different things like that. Your colors. So we talked a lot about colors. So think about what colors do you want to use. Fonts. A lot of people don't think about like the consistency you should use with fonts. Yeah.
I'm so picky about fonts.
Do you y'all have like consistent fonts you use?
I use Brittany and what's the other one? Moon
on Canva.
On Canva.
We should talk about Canva.
Yeah.
Can we talk
about
Canva's
our best friend.
So even in my emails, I'll always change the font.
Me too. I do it too.
Georgia.
I do Arial.
I don't really care about the email. I don't know
what to.
I do. All my templated emails are in Arial font. Yeah, because I like that bubbly look.
Yeah.
But fonts are really important as well, just because that, changes the look of like a graphic, things like that. I think we've all talked about, like, we've all done lifestyle photos. So that's kind of a new thing, actually, I think, to our industry, or just in general, is the lifestyle photos. It's becoming bigger since social media and stuff like that is really big. So
I know two owners of like a pool company that they were just doing lifestyle shots,
yeah,
basically for like their social media and for their website. So it's like, it's not just real estate. I think there are many different types of work that lifestyle photos are really important or could be beneficial.
People want to know who you are, and they want to know that you're a person.
And
they want to know who you are, and it's a connection thing. They just want to know who you are. So this like whole picture of our faces and having that vibe is so important right now.
Right. They want to relate to you. Like the lifestyle pictures help, the audience. Yeah.
Right. I think that boils down to, like, as strong as a brand is, there's supposed to be a person behind it.
Right.
Yes.
People are not, they're going to connect with your brand, but when they actually meet you face to face to work with you, they want that brand to be the person, but there needs to be like an actual genuine authentic person on the other side of that.
And I think we're all thinking like social media a lot, like Instagram, and that's where I'm even struggling right now with on my my business page, where I keep thinking, I need to pull in some more personal stuff. Like, because for me,
it's easy for me.
Yeah, Jake's is in one, and I've gone back and forth on like, should I just have one Instagram? But then it's like, but again, me building a bigger brand than myself is. It's really hard, but I keep thinking, of course we put like our lifestyle photos and stuff on there, but it's like, I do need to talk more about like how I love Friends, and I have a cat, and I love to do these.
Be relatable.
Yeah.
Because people are going to relate to you. They're going to stick around longer, and they're going to want to support you.
Yeah. So I'm working on that. It's always a work in progress, right?
Absolutely. So definitely.
But yeah, like who you are, going off of that. So your personal likes, what's kind of like your consistent thing that Jake, that you think you...
Oh my gosh. Well, I think the most consistent part of my social media is my daughter.
Yes.
JC is like
she is part of your brand.
Yeah, she is a featured part of my brand. I think that comes down to more so now post-divorce, you know, because there'll be times where I take her now on showings or into things like that. So she's involved in work a little bit more. I think we've talked about that on previous episodes. And I set that expectation with clients. But now she basically has her own social media series, even on my social media.
Yes, we love them.
So, you know, if you ever want to hear about her lunch, follow me and you'll get to hear about my
They're
daughter's
so
lunches.
cute.
I feel like that's like another thing I try to do with my brand is like it makes you more relatable, right?
Yeah.
Like when you have kids, or they see you by yourself with 2 kids. Like the other day, I was going to a closing, but they were chasing me through the kitchen. So it was like just like a funny post of like I had to get them out the door, and they were pretending they were dragons chasing me. Like so, like but that just makes you a real person.
Right.
Like that like shows like that authentic self of.
This is why I need a kid, because I feel like I post so much about my cat.
Oh my gosh.
My cat is my kid, and at one point I'm like, people are gonna think I'm weird.
Like that cat lady.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it goes back to like people want to work with the people they know, like, and trust. And so I think showing that you're a parent and like interacting with your child, that also is a way that people build trust with me really quickly, because they can see like, one, how I interact with her. So it's like, it's a funny dynamic, but you can see it's like, I'm a good person. Like, you know, like, look how I handle my daughter.
And you share
I really am.
No,
And I think I've
true.
seen this shift lately where most of my clients from social media now are moms or families relocating to Dallas, which is like so rewarding that like I've made this brand
Definitely,
that like moms feel comfortable being like, hey, actually, can we have real estate help? And it's like,
Definitely.
love
it.
I went actually to have a friend, so cool.
For sure.
Absolutely.
I just thought of this, and I just got a KW referral, and she like found me on command, but she goes, I solely picked you because I saw your website, and then went on your Instagram and like saw just like, she was like, I knew.
Yeah.
So that
it's
huge.
just so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
It's so rewarding. Like you're doing the right thing.
For
Yeah,
sure.
and I think because we'll talk about now like where we brand ourselves, where we brand ourselves, and social is probably the biggest place that you can brand yourself, because the first thing that clients or other agents are going to do is look you up on social media or Google you. So where, like, what does your online presence look
Don't
like?
talk shit about realtors on TikTok if you're getting your real estate license.
Yes.
I had a new client yesterday actually tell me, like, I stalked you on social media before I called you.
Yeah, I've had that happen a couple times.
They do.
Have you,
So,
was it you that sent that TikTok of the girl crying?
No,
That was
was
me.
it you?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
That was a joke, though. I don't think she was actually getting her real estate license.
That was bad.
But
She
people are going to
hopefully
stalk
will.
you, so make sure it's clean. And
Definitely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Which, by the way, also, if you want a good way to clean up your social media, look at your memories. And so as memories come up, if you're like, oh, that was 12 years ago, it doesn't reflect me now, just delete it.
Yeah.
Delete.
It's the easiest way. So I've like been able to like slowly every single day work on like cleaning up my social media, because I'm like, oh, what are my memories from 12 years? Oh, I was doing that. Great.
Yeah.
Let's delete. Like,
I've
you
been
know,
doing that too. I've been deleting a lot of the like Facebook memories.
that's like
lately.
one of my
I mean-
tricks on how to do it, a little bit at a time.
I need to do that on Facebook, because Instagram, it's just my business. So,
Right. That, or it's easier to clean up. But where all do you guys brand yourselves? Like, I obviously everywhere, but like specifically like social media, where else do you show your brand?
Flyers.
I mean, for sale signs.
Print marketing, for
Facebook
sellers.
ads. Facebook
I think
ads.
business cards too. Business card is something that like I feel like maybe people do a lot more digital now, but I try to make my picture on my business card be that like authentic, like, oh, that's Brandie laughing, like, oh, like not a fake laugh, but like
Yeah.
Even
When
like
you
I
was gonna say, well, even your headshot, like what headshot you use, be consistent in that same headshot. I see some agents, they use like 4 different photos of themselves, and while it's fine that all looks like you, that's not, you're not getting that mind share, or they're not recognizing. So I think have one main headshot and reusing that on like the staple pieces of your brand.
The staple. I think like, so for me, it's like I try to do one for like my just listed, just solds, under contracts. Those are all one template basically. So it has one headshot.
Right.
My client testimonials are a totally different look. So it's more of a lifestyle shot in the background of that.
Right.
Of me like looking like I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing in a kitchen, but something totally different, you know? So,
I do the same thing.
Yeah, so that way it's like there is some variation. I'm in navy in all of them though.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I would say make sure your Instagram and your Facebook business pages match, like
Right.
with that. And I even just changed my personal Facebook page to match all 3. That way,
People, yeah.
You
It's all in
just
one spot.
close.
The good
For
thing
sure.
with like Instagram and Facebook now that they are owned by each other is you can post to Instagram and it can automatically go
Right.
to Facebook. So that's something if you're not doing, make sure you're doing because
Right.
it takes out one step.
But you know what I don't like is you have to have on Instagram your business page. I don't know if you've noticed this. Like if you want to do stories, or you have a
You have
So
to link it.
You have to, or change to a creator.
Right.
Or
Yes.
be able to post
Yes.
music.
Yeah.
So mine is always on creator
Mm-hmm.
because I want my
The
stories
music.
to go to my Facebook personal page.
I think it's because you have a personal and a business. I'm the same way because I
Right.
have a personal and a business. I can only do one at a time, and it makes me flip. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a
so
whole
like
nother
I
thing.
just go ahead and create or do creator so I don't have to like
right.
upload them 2 different
Both.
times because
Yeah.
who has time for that?
And then another thing, so like we just finally started doing like some keychains for like part of our closing gifts. So that's one thing. Like I mentioned, my closing gifts that we do, the mats, like, yeah, it doesn't have our brand and logo on it, but we do, it says either, we have some that say bless our nest or bless this nest and then our nest. So it's like using that nest theme. So even when I think of anything that I can brand, it's going towards that
Right.
brand as well.
I do cups too. I want to get
Yep.
yeah. Cups are good or like I don't know, pens. I don't really yeah.
Swag. Some
Yes.
swag. Anywhere else you guys brand yourself?
No, but now I want to do like Jake Langford Real Estate Group, like sunglasses,
Oh.
and, like stuff like that. You know, it's like
That's
so
a
It's a
good
funny.
write-off.
Right,
For sure.
exactly.
Yeah,
How's the
definitely.
write-off work? They just write it off.
Just write it off.
From
I just-
Schitt's Creek.
Yeah,
Y'all
I
seen
love
that?
that. Yes.
Oh, I need to start that. Is that good? Yeah.
It's done.
No, I know, but like when I did my poll the other day, or like I need a binge watch, and like so many people.
You
did.
definitely
Yeah,
need to
it's
see
so
that.
good.
It is really
Yeah.
good.
I
And
know
do
that
not
was like
send
one-
me David memes saying I'm like him. I've already
Oh
seen
my
them
gosh,
all.
Does
that's
everyone
hilarious.
do
Yes,
that?
yeah.
I love it.
You go, oh my gosh, you're so David. Thank you.
You're like, "Ugh." I love being David.
Yes.
I don't
Okay.
even know because I haven't watched it. but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll
so,
see instantly.
I love it. Okay, so what are some tips for branding? Here are some tips that we kind of have for you guys. The first one is don't overthink it. So progress is better than perfection, or done is better than perfect. So
Done is better than perfect. I think
Yes.
that's the best way to put it.
yeah,
For sure.
especially if you're a new agent, like we said earlier, don't think like you can't do anything until you have a brand. Start posting on Instagram, Facebook, all the places, videos, still do them all, and then simultaneously think of your brand. So that's the first tip. What's the next tip?
Be consistent.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
very consistent. Make sure that you're posting I would say once a day.
Yeah, and I've
Once a
been
day,
so
do your
behind
Oh
on
my
that.
gosh, I'm so not good at that.
I'm
Okay, say like
Anymore.
post
I used to be
4
like-
times a week.
Well,
at
okay,
least.
well,
4
I-
times
I
a
would
week.
say
I have a caveat. I'm on my stories once a day, but I
Me
don't
too.
post to my main
And I
feed.
feel like right now with your stories, like showing them like we do roll call. That's really fun and cool. But like having them interact with you.
Yeah,
Right?
really.
Like drive
Yeah.
them to your page. Like ask them like whenever I do a post, I then post to my stories and ask a question, but the answer's in the post. So
Right.
Right.
there's
Definitely.
ways to interact and just
Yeah.
be consistent.
Mhm.
Consistent on posting, but also consistent in your brand. So once you do figure out your color, logos, things like that, put it everywhere. Make the colors, fonts, and all that the same for every post. But you can
I was just about to say, consistent, but not to where you feel uncomfortable changing it if needed. It's like if you get into it and you realize like, because I did that same thing. Like I kind of started with like blues, and I was like, that blue is really not me. It's just too bright. And so like I had been posting using one blue for a little while, and eventually I found like the
Right.
right
Yeah.
color. So it's like your brand can grow as you do. So yes, be consistent, but also not afraid to change it if you realize it doesn't fit you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I would say so be willing to pivot. Like
Yeah.
if
Definitely.
you don't love it and you're not
Pivot.
all in with it, pivot.
Pivot.
And that's how you pivot.
As soon as I said it, I was like, oh, here we go.
And that's really like how you learn. You're not going to learn
Yeah.
your brand until you just throw
Yeah.
you
Keep
put
trying.
yourself out
Trial
there.
and error, yeah. And I love even like you said, like the variations of your colors. Like we have several variations of our color, like the Tiffany blue. Like there's a lighter version, a darker. So it's like having like some variations. I think is also good because you don't want to like if I did Tiffany blue on everything, we do kind of lighten it up some depending on what the marketing piece is. You know what I mean?
Jake's like,
Yeah.
I'm only navy.
Well, no, I'm navy and gray. My grays will change, like
Yeah.
from light grays, like charcoals to
Right.
light grays, like that will change. But if like navy is one of those where it's like you change it a little bit and it's like purple or it's green. So it's like
Yeah.
the navy that I found, I'm like, it's never changing.
So that's
Yeah.
my problem is like I have my hot pink that I love and I cannot find that color. It's on my mug, but I can show you guys. But I can't find that when it's in like digital marketing, it doesn't look the same.
Huh.
So I cannot find like the hot pink that I'm obsessed with. Shopping
Try
at
it
the
in
floor
like
band
Canva.
with, but
Have you played with Canva a little bit to like find it? 'Cause
I've
you can,
tried.
like,
It's just I don't know. I need like to.
Because it'll give you like the whatever
hex
hex code, yeah, and everything.
Yeah, I need to.
I wish you could do on Canva like how like you match on Instagram like
Mhm.
like you can match a color. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, the pin drop, the eye drop. I wish
you not?
No, you can't.
Yeah, otherwise I would be.
There's websites though. If you just look up like hex code finder or something, and then you could do a pin drop from that image, and then you'll find that hex code for Canva. Let's talk about Canva for a minute. So this is another tip.
Talked about it. We should.
Yeah, so Canva's like life changing. Maybe they'll sponsor us one day.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty inexpensive. I don't know how much you guys pay, but I think I pay $120 a year. But I think the price went up. So I don't know if I'm like grandfathered in or something.
Grandmothered in.
Grandmother.
I pay like 12. No, I do.
You pay monthly?
I don't
Yes.
know.
No.
Mine
You
is
should-
monthly.
I pay yearly because you save money.
Yes. Pay for it annually because, yeah, you get a good discount.
I want to say that when I was doing my taxes, it was like 120 when I did the math. 12 times
Maybe.
12.
Well, I think
That's
now.
144.
Oh.
Honestly,
At
when
least
she
I-
said it, I was like, yeah, that sounds right.
But
Maggie can calculate 3% of any number you
I
give.
can't do that.
Canva is
Okay.
life changing. I mean, you just created your flyers on it.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the best.
I do all of my social media through it. And
Yeah.
Everything.
My posts and personalizing things and
I created my real estate signs on it. We do
Same.
all the images. I mean, everything. Flyers. Now we have we just redid our whole buyers and listing presentation. We're working on that right now. All done in Canva.
I did all
Yeah,
my.
so-
you did your listing presentation in Canva.
Just kind of like a broad explanation for those of you that are listening. I think we've talked about all the things it does, but not exactly what it is.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, tell them what it is.
So it's a website or an app. I use the app version. I know you're totally opposed to that,
It is
Mariana.
so foreign. I
It's
don't
different.
get
I
it.
am.
I
I want to be
use
at my
both.
computer all the time.
It
I'm
is.
with you.
I
So
like my
it's
computer.
app
a
is
website or
weird.
an app.
The app
And-
doesn't work. I don't know how you do it.
It's basically a way for you to create your own like digital marketing.
Content.
Yeah.
So whereas like a lot of large companies have to hire a digital marketing team, and those people are brilliant at what they do. This is kind of an easy, user-friendly version of that for like the everyday person that you can do so much stuff with. I mean, you can take a picture and clear out a background,
Yep.
which is something that used to like you would only be able to do that in Photoshop, and
Yeah, right.
someone had to do that, you know. So it's definitely something that makes all of that easier to do.
And
You can
easy
save
to
your
learn. It's really easy to learn. Too.
Yeah,
it is.
It's not overwhelming or intimidating. It's very
You can
friendly.
save
Yeah.
your brand kit. So once you have fonts and colors that you like, you can save those instantly in your brand kit. So it's very user friendly.
Yeah.
Right. You can make like newsletters, postcards. I just did all my postcards through Canva and just like different templates, social media posts. I mean, the options are
100%.
endless.
Okay, so just to help walk through someone, for your flyer, was it a flyer that they already had and you just made your own, or did you just kind of
I
start
think
building?
that's another good idea
For my-
because they
yeah.
do have thousands
Templates.
of templates for
Mhm.
every
Yeah.
type of material or marketing.
And then
piece
what's
that you can
cool
use
is once you
To answer your question, Brandie, I downloaded a template not from Canva, but I changed it to my brand. But like I followed it
Yeah.
with
From
my
Etsy.
well, what's cool is once you create
Etsy.
that.
It was Etsy.
Yeah, I've done
Yeah.
one from Etsy where you buy like you can buy something on
You
Etsy.
can buy Canva templates
Yeah.
Canva
on
templates,
Etsy.
and then
on
you just
Etsy.
put it on Etsy.
Canva.
Yeah.
Canva and
That's
Etsy is what I said.
That's how I did my just sold.
Yeah.
And then once you have that flyer, that just sold
Mm-hmm.
flyer or whatever it is, you can go in and like change it for every listing and
Definitely.
everything
I know.
like that too. So
Yeah.
love Canva. It's definitely something to look into, and you'll see why we
Yeah.
love it so much.
For consistency, do you guys use an app for posting on social media?
I don't, but I should.
We don't.
I do not.
We just go kind of authentically, but we do 3 times a week is kind of our minimum, and then from there we do try to schedule some posts, like if for the weekends and stuff like that. But I don't like schedule it at a month at a time. No.
I don't schedule mine either. So mine had gotten, I think, a little like I was less consistent with how much I was posting to my main feed, just because of this summer traveling, post-divorce. I mean, just like this summer has just been like a lot. So I'm like going back to my core things and trying to drive those all back onto my main feed. And so like, I think you asked earlier like what mine were, and I said JC was like my main one. But my actual pillars are family, fashion, interior design, real estate,
Love it,
and
yeah.
fitness is like my other one, because y'all all know that like I work out enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to like, if it doesn't fit into one of those categories, it cannot go on my main feed. It can only go in stories. And then those things can also go in stories. But I try to like separate it out. But if you look at it right now, my feed is pretty much just like travel, JC, or real estate. So it's like the other ones have kind of fallen off. So like my goal is to like bring those back in.
But that's still good that you have like not just real estate. Like I've been like really bad about that. I need to.
But I think that's important with your brand too, is to remember like you're not going to be perfect, right? Done,
for sure,
right?
Over perfect. Like you're still a presence on Instagram.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you can always start today, right? Like you can always figure it out.
Yeah, or next week when I'm back.
But I'm saying you don't have to like not do it at all,
right? Yeah,
because you haven't done it. Yeah,
definitely.
And I think that's kind of leads us on our last tip is be you, be authentic. I think this really is important for like video, for example. I hear so many agents saying, "Well, I hate the way I sound and look in video," and I'm like, well, that's how you sound and you look, right?
When you show up to your first appointment, that's how you're still going to sound and look.
Exactly. So I think being authentic on video is the most important thing because, and even if you mess up, like we're all human.
Sometimes I feel like I even post the bloopers, like after like a video, I'll be like, okay. Like, because it shows people like you're real.
Yeah.
Like, also like show the bad days. Show the bad days, show the days. There was one, I think a few weeks ago when I didn't have a sitter and I had to take both kids to Fort Worth and I was like crying. Like it's just like I missed my parents so much, but like you show that because you're like not every day is lollipops and butterflies and like we love this. Like sometimes it's really hard and people relate to that because a lot of us are struggling too and want to relate to someone who's not always perfect all the time.
Yeah. And so many people are like, I'm gonna get it in real estate, like looks so easy or whatever, but we're gonna do it.
We're gonna set you straight on the next podcast.
Yes, we can't wait because we have a lot of good. We could go on and on about that, but I try and just talk on stories just about. I mean, like transactions that are not. It's not all unicorns and rainbows.
Yeah,
for sure. I think it's actually the opposite.
I think that's important because I think if you post all positive stuff, it's very easy nowadays, especially with our age, and so it's a lot of us work with clients like our age around. People will see and instantly kind of are like, that's not real. Like you don't always have good days. You know, it's like people can recognize authenticity. Yeah. So it's like you have to be really cognizant of what you're posting and post the ups and the downs. You know, I definitely don't post.
Spill your coffee all over your car.
Yeah. So I think that's just again, people want to know, like, and trust you, and they're not going to do that if they don't know the real you.
Yeah, sure. And I think I get the most response when I post something. Like I post one time where I was like, I am so tired today, and you can like see it in my eyes, and I was like, guys, it's been a long day. I get so many more responses to that, like, hey, you're doing great, and it's like from people I didn't even think were like watching me.
Yeah, I mean, I did that this week. I had that boomerang or something I posted on my stories on Monday, and I was like, I'm having such a bad day, or like, ugh, this day, or something like that.
Oh, your eye roll?
Yes, my infamous eye roll.
And that was like the main motivation for my drink that night, honestly.
Yeah, was that you knew that like I was having such a bad day. Yeah. And then I had cut alcohol 2 weeks ago from my diet, pretty much. Yes. So, but yeah, I got like tons of responses from that of like people either being like, it'll get better, or like trying to make me laugh, sending funny jokes. And so it's like, again, it's just really nice.
People relate to you more when you keep it real.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, any last words on branding? Anything we didn't touch? I think we covered it all.
We did good.
All right.
Touched it all.
We touched it all. So when you get all right, so when you're thinking of your brand, hopefully this helps at least kind of get you started as well. But if you have any other questions when it comes to branding, I mean, take a look at all of our Instagrams and Facebooks, see what we kind of do, and let us know if you have any specific questions for any of us on our brand.
If you can't think of yours, message us, and we will always. I love the tips and phrases game. So it's like if you message me what you did professionally before or what your experience was, I love doing that. So you can message that to us too.
Jake will give you a free little mentor lesson.
Oh gosh, well, I 3 words and phrases is what I promise. That is vastly different than an hour of my time.
Love it. Okay, guys. Well, we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.